Hey, welcome everybody to KnoxvilleDirtDigest.com. Mike Roberts along for the ride with a blackout weekend. I'm just not used to taking a weekend off, especially when we just got started. But Kendra Jacobs is kind enough to join us for today's show as we're pre-recording this show. I don't know what I'm going to be doing tomorrow other than getting packed for. I'm going south for Memphis. Were you going anywhere? Or are you going to stick around and
No,
sell stuff?
I was supposed to go to
Right,
Hilton Head Island. That's where my family goes
right,
every year.
right.
But COVID hit and
Now you said
everything
the
was up
naughty
in the
word.
air. I know it's awful, right?
Yeah, I
So
know.
everything changed for all of our families, and I didn't know if we would end up rescheduling a race this weekend or not. And then I didn't know like if I come, I can't really leave the very next week. So vacation got canceled. I can honestly say I've never needed it more, and it's canceled. So I'm struggling with that. But no, we have Knoxville High School graduation
Right.
at the track this weekend. So I will be prepping for my first ever graduation experience. I mean, besides my own.
I'm going to say, did you
But
graduate
I mean, I
like a
did.
couple times?
But
Or
it's going to
what?
be definitely from a different angle
Right.
this weekend. So trying to make that
You're
special.
kind of the director.
Oh, not really. No.
Really?
I'm just turning the mics on and turning the video screen on.
They can't deal without you.
Both things that you would think in 5 years at Knoxville I would know how to do.
Yeah.
No. So I'm getting you gave me the crash course on the mics.
Yeah.
I'm getting the crash course on the video board tomorrow.
I gotta say I can't do that because I haven't never done that.
Yeah,
So
so this will be a learning experience for me too.
no doubt.
But I get to sit in the air conditioned booth during graduation Sunday and get to watch from above. So
It's
it'll
kind of a
be
neat
cool.
thing too. I mean, they're getting to do graduation where
Yes.
3 months ago they're like, we're done, it's over with. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, we always do a machine called the Wayback Machine when you're on my show.
Okay.
Okay,
How far back are we going?
we're gonna talk about baby Kendra and where she was
Uh-huh.
born at.
Oh, for real?
For real? Yeah, for real. Where'd you start out at?
This little tiny town called Millersburg, Ohio, is
Okay.
where I was born. It's right next to Holmesville, Ohio.
When you say tiny population ballpark,
Oh goodness, smaller than Knoxville.
seriously?
Yeah,
Okay.
smaller than Knoxville. My hometown, Holmesville,
Right.
is about population maybe 500 people.
Okay.
I mean, it is. We have one stoplight that's a flashing one, and it hasn't worked in probably 28 years.
I love
So
it.
that is what my town is made up of.
Yeah.
And of course, that's when people introduced my dad, or when they did when he raced, it was always from Holmesville, Ohio. So
Sure.
that's where we've lived my entire life. I live now in a town about 2 towns away called Worcester, which is where Jack and Sean
Jack, yeah.
Hodenshield are from. And in between those towns is a little town called Fredericksburg, and then Apple Creek, which is where Brad Doty was from and now lives. So it was really weird that this little teeny tiny community, which by the way is about 80% Amish,
Right.
created or found these 3 race car drivers in this same little tiny town that ended up being best friends and are still really, really close friends. And it's funny to me, I leave Knoxville where I see racing stuff everywhere, obviously.
Right.
And I go back to this little Amish community in Ohio, and every high school basketball game, football game, there's sprint car t-shirts, sprint car sweatshirts. I can't go anywhere without seeing some kind of sprint car hat or
Right.
something. So I do live in 2 very, very, very dedicated sprint car communities. Different communities, but everywhere you go, it's sprint car somewhere.
Where was the nearest track growing up then?
Wayne County Speedway is in Orrville, Ohio.
Okay. So how far are we talking? Just
From Holmesville, where I grew up, it's about 20 minutes.
okay, not bad.
No, and
Yeah.
my dad, so my great grandfather, my dad's grandfather built Wayne County Speedway.
Right.
It was a cornfield. Legend has it, I think this is true. It's what I've always been told, that my grandfather Kenneth Jake Jacobs that raced,
Mhm.
some track put a bounty on him, and my great grandfather didn't like that, and he said, "Forget this, we'll just build our own racetrack." So he plowed down his own cornfield and built this racetrack, and it's still going today, Wayne County Speedway in Ohio.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's,
Kind of the racing version of Field of Dreams. You know, if you build it, they will come.
and they have
Yeah.
for decades now. So it's pretty cool. I like going back there when I can, when I
Right.
can get a race in. My grandparents lived right across the street, so after like Speed Week race there, they would have a huge pig roast, and 100 people, race fans, teams, drivers, everybody would go over. So lots of good memories from that racetrack.
I've had a lot of chances to go out west and race. A little bit out east, not a lot. Do you get the sense that Ohio is more like Iowa as far as community driven with the racing and everything? Towns are same size, smaller towns. I mean, kind of family atmosphere all the time.
Yeah, Ohio and Iowa themselves are very similar.
Right.
I feel like, you drive, you're in the country, and it's nothing but fields and cornfields and barns, and and farms, and then all of a sudden you're in a bigger town, and then you're right back in a cornfield. So I feel like they're very similar. I think the community support of racing is much, much, much stronger in Iowa,
Okay.
Especially Knoxville. You know, a lot of the racetracks, and I think it depends too where your racetrack is built at. Like
Right.
Wayne County's not in a town; it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere in a
Sure.
field. So the community is aware of it, but it's not like fans are going into town to eat before the races or hanging out. So there's not as much where it feels like one. I'm trying to think how to say that. So like in Knoxville, the racetrack and the town are so intertwined
Yeah.
that it feels like one big area.
Yeah, the track used to be on the edge of town, but the town grew around the track.
Yeah, so we're all kind of together now,
Yeah.
and it's not like that in Ohio. Like even Eldora
Right.
isn't near a town.
Right.
It's out in the middle of nowhere. So I think the community feel that Knoxville has is very different than what I've seen in other areas.
Yeah, I understand that. And the one thing I don't want to say jealous, but I like about Ohio is the fact that you guys still have so many racetracks out there. Where Iowa, we used to have a track every 25 miles. I mean, every town seat or county seat rather had a track, and that's all kind of fizzled away now. So it's kind of sad because I can remember stories about the real Newton, and I can remember stories about Lucas County Speedway and all that stuff. So it's just never got to actually race it, and thank God for Bob Trossel and Leonard McCarl telling stories, because otherwise we wouldn't know about them. So you mentioned your grandfather and your great grandfather. I got to ask you, your family has a history of nicknames.
We do.
I mean,
My grandpa started that.
Yeah, how just because.
He was so funny. Like
Right.
my grandpa always had one-liners. You never knew what he was going to say, and he was just one of those guys that was laughing and happy all the time.
Right.
All the time. And it started when his kids were little. He just gave everybody nicknames. So my dad was Mouse.
Right.
And he got that because he was a wrestler in high school.
Sure.
But as a senior in high school, he wrestled 98 pounds. So he was teeny tiny, and he just got the nickname Mouse.
Right.
Like, I guess that's where that one came from. But he has 6 brothers and sisters, and all of them had nicknames. So there's, I'm going to try to remember all these. Mutt, Mouse, Hunky, Wiener, which is my Uncle Dean.
Yeah.
Fat Baby, Heifer, and
Wow.
I'm forgetting one. Oh, Tinkerbell.
Tinkerbell. All right.
So those are my aunts and uncles and my
Okay.
dad. And then the grandkids, there was like 35 of us grandkids. So not all of us had nicknames, but some of us did. I did.
Yeah, say what's yours? I know you have one.
My nickname was Chipmunk.
Okay.
When I was little, I had giant cheeks. Like
Okay.
the pictures are so. I laugh when I look back, but I had huge cheeks. And my grandfather always talked about me storing food in my cheeks, so I got Chipmunk.
Right.
So we were kind of the rodent family, I guess, in a little bit between Mouse and Chipmunk and the same. But like my sister does not have a nickname. My brother's is Eli. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. Oh gosh, there's so many nicknames that he has for people. There's Peter Dink.
How'd your brother get Eli?
So when my brother was little, he spelled his name when he was learning how to spell his name. He would spell EEL.
Okay.
And so Ellie, like,
Right.
he's not dyslexic, but that's how he would spell it. And
Yeah.
he had the bowl haircut that made him look like a little Amish boy in an Amish community. So
Why
Eli
not?
was kind of an Amish name when we were young. It's
Yeah.
very popular now, but so he got Eli. A Myrtle, that was my cousin Aaron, was Myrtle. Gosh, I can't remember all of them. He just had nicknames. And they would come out of nowhere. Just one day it would come out and stick. So yeah, there was
Amazing.
lots
Amazing.
of nicknames.
A lot of times I'll ask people that are on the show, how did you get into racing? You had no choice.
No.
You were literally born into it.
And I hated it.
Every direction you turned was racing.
I hated racing.
That's what gets me.
Yeah,
We've
I
had
was
that conversation.
the only one that
Yeah.
did in our family. My sister and my brother both raced quarter midgets.
Mm-hmm.
So we would spend all day every Sunday down at the Ohio State Fairgrounds, and they would have indoor midget racing. Or not midget, quarter midgets.
Right.
And I hated it. I wasn't a driver. I'm not the world's greatest driver. I tell anybody who gets in a car with me, like, hey, I'm really sorry. And every time I say that, Craig Ford freaks out. He's like, I give you a car.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I hated those days. They were long days. I didn't race. I felt very uncool and kind of the nerd. And it probably didn't help that I sat up in the corner of the grandstands and read books all day, but that is how I spent my
Right.
days. So I was just never the racer. You know, my dad had that bond with my brother and my sister, and they would go out racing together, and it was just nothing I ever really enjoyed. And then I got to be like 13,
Mm-hmm.
and Dad was racing with the World of Outlaws,
Right.
and I started making some friends on the road. I remember coming to Knoxville Nationals. You know, that when you're about 13, 14 is when your parents start really kind of just letting you,
Oh yeah.
okay, we're going to let you venture out.
Yep.
And our rule was as long as me and my sister stayed together, we could pretty much go anywhere.
Yep.
Go have fun, but stay together. I think they knew we would rat on each other if one of us did something wrong.
Sure.
Um,
And other drivers knew you, so they'd ride on you too.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Kenny was definitely getting told
Yeah.
if his daughters did anything. But I came to Knoxville one year and I met these two brothers named Billy and AJ Mottet, who became very, very good friends of mine. And of course, AJ now owns Dingus.
Right.
I remember we used to like stare at Dingus and say, we can't wait till we can get in there. And now AJ owns it.
Yeah.
A really good friend of mine when I was young was Brian Brown, because Danny was on the road with my dad and Brian would come with him a lot. So Brian and I were together all the time. I met a friend here that came to the races all the time with his dad named Mark Chevalier, and his son just made his 305 or pace performance car debut here this past weekend. So we've kind of all come full circle, and we've all ended up right back at Knoxville, which is really, really cool. So
It's funny because the first time that we actually interacted together, for lack of better words, and talked and interviewed was clear back when you were running for Queen contest.
yeah.
1995?
96.
96.
96.
I was always off of you on that. 96.
That was that whole week was so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would do that
Well,
week all over again.
In the court, I mean, I guess if I had to pick a court where you felt comfortable around everybody, not saying that any other court's different, but the group you were with, you knew them for one thing. I mean, all of them.
I mean, my sister was first runner-up.
Yeah.
We're together all the time anyway.
Yeah.
There was some threats that she was going to push me in front of a car because, you know, first runner-up takes the queen's spot.
Exactly.
So there were a few threats and joking, but that was such a fun week. And I try to tell every girl, and it seems like girls will say, I just don't know, like I'm embarrassed, or I really want to do it, I'm just shy. It is the most fun week.
Right.
If you are on court, you get to do things that the average fan doesn't just get to come and jump in and join.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you get paid. I mean,
Right.
it's good money. So I really hope we get some girls that do it. I know times have changed and girls want to be in the car, not necessarily in a dress on stage. So I know things have changed. There's still a spot for women in both roles, I feel
Right.
like. So hopefully we get a lot of girls that run this year for the 60th, because it'll be a really good time.
You got into racing not by choice, and you did have that time period where you didn't like it. Now you've launched yourself completely forward. I mean, you have made a career out of being in marketing.
Mm-hmm.
When did you decide? I mean, you graduate high school, you do college, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I didn't want to.
You didn't want to do college?
I didn't want to do college. I was on the road all the time with Dad.
Sure.
And I thought I can find a job out here. Like I don't need to go to college.
Right.
And I knew I wanted to work in racing. At that point, it was after I started making friends
Right.
and started kind of creating your own identity in the sport. Like I was still Kenny's daughter.
Right.
But you know, the year I was queen, I think some people got to know me for my personality and who I was,
Sure.
not just necessarily my dad. And then you get friend groups and you kind of venture out and you're not so much Kenny's daughter anymore. You're just a fan, which I loved. And not going to college was not an option for my mom and dad. So they're like, oh no, you're going. And I remember sitting down with my counselor in college and saying, I want to work in racing. So tell me what degree I need to go into. Tell me what I need to do. And I just happened to, right before college, I went to a kart race in Cleveland when they would do the, it was right on the lake. They do like a street course. On the lake.
Yeah.
Burke Lakefront Airport or something like that.
Kind of a little Grand Prix type thing.
So,
They
yeah,
make
so
shift, yeah.
I went to that race by chance with two of my high school friends. And while they were watching the race, I kept looking back in like the pit area in the paddock. And I was like, who are all the people with headsets on and golf carts and they're running people around? Like, who are those people?
Mm-hmm.
And I finally talked to someone. He said, well, those are PR people, you know, driver managers. I'm like, that's what I want to do.
Right.
I want to be at the races, but I don't want to be in front of a camera. I want to be behind the scenes. So I went to college and got my degree in communications, communications, English, and journalism.
Okay.
And sent resumes to every NASCAR team and sprint car team I could think of. my internship was actually the PR director for the Gum Out series. Do you remember
Yeah,
that series?
World of Gummer series, yeah.
My parents let me, at the age of 20, drive around the entire country by myself. I mean, it was insane.
Right.
All the drivers kind of took me in as their kid sister, and really, it was like a family out there. That series was really, really cool because we were all young.
Sure.
Like, it was a bunch of young people. So after doing the internship, I made a bunch of connections with the World of Outlaws raced at Charlotte Motor Speedway that year.
Right.
They raced at Bristol, covered in dirt. They raced at Texas, covered in dirt.
Mm-hmm. Las Vegas was a big one.
Texas dirt track.
Yeah.
Las Vegas. Yeah.
Yep.
So through all of that, the Gum Out series would race with the Outlaws at those, and I got to meet some people who worked in NASCAR around that. So I couldn't find any jobs for a while. Decided I was going to give up and go back to school, get my teaching degree. I decided that on a family vacation. Got home from vacation, and back when we had answering machines, we didn't have cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm aging myself. I had a message on the answering machine from an agency in Charlotte that wanted to interview me to be the PR assistant for Ricky Rudd in the Haviland car back then. And the PR director at the time was a guy named Steve Post. So
might have heard of him.
Might have heard of him.
Yeah, exactly.
So my very first job in NASCAR, and oh my gosh, it was so funny. So they wanted to interview me, and then I had to go on a trial race. I had to go to a NASCAR race for a trial race. And it was the week of the Knoxville Nationals.
Oh,
and I remember
Lord.
going, I mean, I just don't think I can interview for this job.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to have to say no, because there's no way I'm missing Knoxville.
Right.
And I thought my parents were going to pass out. They're like, you have to. This is your future.
This is a break right here.
You work so you can come back to Knoxville. So I went to Watkins Glen for a week, and about killed me not to be at Knoxville. And it was great. I got the job. And so I moved to Charlotte in 2002.
Okay.
And from there, I worked with Ricky Rudd, and then I went and worked at Dale Earnhardt Incorporated with a handful of drivers there. Moved to Penske and worked with Ryan Newman for 2.5 years. And then I went to Hendrick Motorsports and worked there for 7 or 8 years.
I didn't know you were with DEI. I did not know that.
I was for 1 year. I mean, Dale had already...
Yeah,
was
right
already gone.
after.
Yeah, after Dale had passed away. I worked there. But it was great. Like, I got to know Junior.
Sure.
And worked with Michael Waltrip a little bit. Steve Park was there when I first started. So it was really cool. Like, it was a really interesting organization to work with. There was just so much attention on them. So that was fun. And I worked with Hendrick for a really long time. While I was at Hendrick, Wing Nation started.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably when I started seeing my career path start turning a little bit. So I knew, like, this NASCAR stuff's cool. Like, but maybe it's ran its course. I've been on the road now for 12 straight years. I'm tired.
Was that your door opening to get back into dirt?
100%.
Yeah.
Well, the door really opened because Jim Butler at KNIA gave me a shot at the 50th Nationals and let me be like a feature reporter and an infield reporter for KNIA's live broadcast.
Right.
So he gave me my shot. I had never done radio before. Beyond, like, I did like the radio news broadcasts in college on our college station.
Right.
I had never done live reporting.
Yeah, the wattage was across the dorms is what it basically was. Yeah.
So, I mean, Jim Butler really is the one who gave me my shot, and Wing Nation heard that.
I was working for Jim when I first met you when you were doing the quiz contest. Yeah.
So, like, we kind of met back then, and then you moved on, like, different roles. But
Right.
So Jim Butler's really who gave me my shot, and then MRM with Wing Nation, and then that led to me doing some NASCAR pit road reporting for some Cup and Xfinity and some road course races, and I just saw, like, things are changing. Like, the NASCAR stuff isn't my end game anymore.
Right.
I really want to get back into dirt, but growing up in the sport, there's no money in dirt.
Right.
From a business standpoint, there's no money in dirt. But that was changing.
Yeah.
Obviously it's changed. So
you're talking about KNIA. In one of my first interviews with Carl Kinzer, and I flat out asked him. I said, "Hey, how do you make $1 million in sprint car racing? You'll start out with $3 million."
Yes.
And that's the way it was back then, and even now. I mean, unless you're the big five, is what I call them now. It used to be the big three, now it's the big five. I mean, you're struggling every week.
Yeah, I mean, no one's.
Yeah, you better have your sponsorship lined up first. I guess what I'm trying to say.
I don't think there's anyone that's getting wealthy in sprint car racing.
No.
It's not like you make enough money racing and you have this surplus of sponsorship money that you pocket some. There's no really pocketing of money.
I think that's why it's so intense all the time. I mean,
it is.
NASCAR actually tried to fabricate the intensity of let the boys do what the boys are going to be, or how is that? Yeah, boys will be what boys will be, or how it was.
Boys have at it.
Boys have at it. That's what it was. Where in sprint car racing, the guys that are running out there, that might be their house payment that week if they don't finish at least second or first.
And there is a running. I mean, it's not a joke, but it's a conversation in NASCAR's. You can tell when it's a contract year for a NASCAR driver. They race a little harder.
Yep.
Their elbows are a little more up. There was one driver who there was a rumor that he was on a commission only one year. He had the best year of his career. And it's like, you don't know if that's true.
Sure.
But it kind of fits into what we talk about in dirt racing all the time. There's no salaries.
No.
I mean, maybe there are. We don't know how contracts work.
Right.
But I don't think anyone's sitting on a $2 million guaranteed salary in sprint car racing where you finish doesn't really matter. You might get bonuses if you win X amount of races or if you win the championship. That's not how it's set up in sprint car racing.
Right.
You get paid by how you do on a nightly basis, so you better do well. So there's no one here, and I'm not saying this happens in other sports, but there's no one here taking it easy. That's just not how our sport operates.
I know of a couple teams. I won't mention names. A couple drivers are on salaries, but I also know.
Wow, really?
I also know, and this has been going on for a few years. But I also know on these salaried guys, they don't last very long sometimes with these teams because now they are expected 100% to earn that paycheck every week. It's a job.
Yes. Gosh, that's surprising.
Yeah,
to me.
there's a couple teams out there, but
Wow.
they're short lived a lot of times.
Yeah.
So it's really weird.
I think that percentage thing works.
Oh, 100, not 100%, but
Yeah, I mean, I'd hope it's a good percentage.
Yeah.
But like,
I know some of the deals. Ricky Logan was one of them because I did a lot of PR stuff for him, and if he won, it was 50%.
yeah, that's great.
But
You
if
gotta have an
if
incentive
he got
for it.
second, it was 40. If he got third, it was 30, and below 30 was ugly.
Oh,
I mean, just didn't
yeah.
eat. So I mean, that was the
I
incentive.
mean, times have changed. I would understand adapting to what works for everyone.
Sure.
And I'm sure a lot of these drivers, more so now than before, have to think about retirement and what that looks like, and all the benefits and costs. Like,
Oh yeah,
I don't think there's many drivers that get health insurance with their jobs.
that's
So,
what I'm saying.
yeah, like it's different times and there's different concerns, and I think people more so now are conscious of injuries and paying for those bills than they were probably back in the 70s and 80s when they raced.
I can't help, and maybe I'm wrong about this. I can't help but think also that's why you still guys that are racing longer because they don't have that plan or their plan got blown up in their face or whatever you want to call it, and they're still out there racing. Maybe I don't want to say wait when they shouldn't because I enjoy watching them. It's neat to watch them still race and do good. I mean, Sammy a couple weeks ago, my God,
He's like the fountain of youth.
yeah, he's a different level.
He is. It's
You know,
incredible.
and he's gonna be 65 this fall, I think.
It cracks me up because every time he does well, I'm like, please tell me Dad didn't watch that.
Yeah,
Because I don't want, I know that for a while my dad kept saying, man, maybe I left too early. I mean, he just had so many injuries.
Sure.
He couldn't keep doing it. But I always was like, don't you dare get back in that car.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a new time in your life. You're not less of a human being because you're not a race car driver.
right.
It's just a different time of your life.
And I think 40, 50 years ago, they had the job that was 9 to 5. They got their
That was my
benefits, and
dad.
they went and played.
Yep.
Yep.
And
So-
and then you did like the local Friday, Saturday, and maybe a Sunday race, and
Right.
that was enough.
Yeah, your vacation was okay. I'm going to be gone until Monday now or Monday afternoon because
Yep.
I'm out of state or something like that.
But yeah, we would drive all night on Sunday nights from Pennsylvania when he
Yeah.
raced over there, and gosh, get home at 3 or 4 in the morning, and he'd have to be at work at 7.
Yeah.
And he was like totally worth it.
I did
Absolutely
that
worth
with Hughes for a couple of years. You go up there and race on Sunday night, and guess what? You clocked in at 7 o'clock Monday morning.
Oh, it's I mean, I get
Yeah.
exhausted when we were on Saturday nights. On Sundays, I'm like, I am drained. I couldn't imagine doing it Sundays and having to go back to work full time on Monday. But we have employees every weekend that do it.
Yep.
That work on Sundays.
Yep.
I kudos to them. I guess I'm lazy.
You
I
got
can't
you
do-
got into the marketing thing. We can jump forward a
Oh
little
yeah, I'm
bit.
sorry.
That's all right.
You will
We
learn.
can banter back and
I
forth
have
on
ADD,
racing.
Mike. So like, I am going to jump around everywhere.
That's
It's
right.
really bad.
You got into marketing. How'd you get into marketing? Because it's a form of PR. It is, but it's a whole different monster.
Well, to be honest with you, like when I went to Spire, the
Right.
Spire agency that I'm at, that was kind of different because I'd only really done PR
Mhm.
through all of NASCAR. But Spire is an agency where it's kind of all hands on deck for every client.
Right.
So, this client, this employee or coworker might be in charge of this client, but they need your help or your additional help doing this and this and this. So I started learning about marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I think in a roundabout way, I learned about marketing when I started working with the Jeff Gordon Children's Foundation,
Right.
because that was selling sponsorship. But at that point, it was selling donations. But what I started learning is if you give them assets in return for their donations.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you sponsor this, then you can be in a VIP meet and greet with Jeff and Tony Stewart and Larson and whoever, then this level of marketing gets this and this level of sponsorship gets this. So I started learning about it without realizing I was learning about it.
Right.
And at Inspired, then I started getting more crash courses on sponsorship and marketing. And when they talked to me about coming to work at Knoxville, I thought they were crazy. I was like, I'm not a marketing person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a PR person. And they're like, but you just raised almost $500,000 for Jeff Gordon Children's Foundation in 3 years. Yes, obviously you're in marketing. And I never looked at it that way. But then I got the job and I had to learn real quick. And I'm still learning.
Right.
I mean, I'm still figuring things out. And I will tell you, the year of 2020 has been extremely trying. I have learned things about marketing and sponsorships that I wish I hadn't, because it's just been a year of a lot of twists and turns and changes and being compassionate and learning how to work with people even when the times have changed necessarily. Like it's been a major learning curve for this year, but I just keep saying, if we can get to the end of this one, we've accomplished something.
I look at this year as in when you look back on your life, or Judgment Day, or whatever you want to call it, and this year you hope they graded it on a curve.
Yeah.
Because no matter what you did, it seemed like it was failure. Not you personally. I'm talking about in general. In general, it just feels like every turn you make, it runs into a wall.
Well, even when we think we're making a good decision.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about. I'm going to throw it out there.
Sure.
This is again the ADD. I'm going down another path.
No worries.
When we worked with the World of Outlaws on the No Fans race,
Mm-hmm.
We all thought we were doing something good. Like, we were excited to announce that we were going back racing. There were no fans, but you watch on Dirt Vision,
right?
And these guys finally get to race again. I was so taken aback by the negativity we got from race fans. I remember just staring at my phone that night going, what?
Yeah. Major League Baseball is facing that today, actually.
Because they're playing now,
yeah,
so people are mad.
They're going to start playing the 23rd and 24th of July with no fans, and everybody's like, what's the point?
Okay, but for the past 2 months, you've been complaining because they haven't been playing.
Exactly. don't ask me to explain it, because I don't. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
You're like, everyone's trying.
Right.
There is no perfect answer this year. There's no perfect solution for us either.
Right.
You know, and I guess that night was a shocker. So it's learning a lot of patience this year. A lot of patience with myself, because I get really devastated and down. I feel like I keep saying the last few days, like, I just feel defeated. I just feel exhausted and defeated.
I'm just glad we're back to even partial fans, because I got to be honest with you, and I'll say it straight up. I was becoming an alcoholic this year because it was getting ugly.
I feel like with some of the texts, emails, social media posts I'm getting,
yeah,
I feel like I'm going to become more of an alcoholic now.
Well, you know.
I'm just, I don't know. I hope everyone, and I look, I understand it's pent up frustration.
Right.
Like, some people were in their house for 2 months and couldn't do anything. A lot of people lost their jobs. Now there's so much uncertainty and turmoil in our country that people are just, it's almost like emotions are boiling.
Yep.
And they have to come out somewhere. And I just want to hold a sign up that says, please don't blow up on me. Like, please don't blow up on anybody who's working at this track, because we're all trying.
Right.
Everyone's trying to do what's best for everybody. So, 2020.
Hindsight's 2020, as they say.
John McCoy and I said today that you're not supposed to wish time away, but man, I will be one happy person when New Year's Eve hits this year.
Yeah, we're running out of time. I want to thank you for coming up. I do want to have you back on again.
Yes,
thank you.
I mean, I feel like I just kind of kept rambling, so I'm sorry.
No, that's the whole thing. It's just to let loose and relax and keep positive is what I try to do.
You do. Like, you told me not to mention COVID, and I did twice, I think.
Yeah, so. I know. There's a fine for that, by the way. But
you should. Yeah. If I could go through like every day finding people who bring up COVID, that would be great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to wrap up this edition of KnoxvilleDirtDigest.com. We want to make sure you guys tune in next weekend, and got live racing action here at Knoxville Friday and Saturday night, July 3rd and 4th. So tune into that. If you can't be here at the racetrack, you can always check it out on DirtVision.com. We'll catch you next time.
Tired of doing this? Get a can of this and spend more time doing this. Seafoam helps engines start easier, run smoother, and last longer. Seafoam. Seafoam! Help your engine run smoother and last longer with Seafoam motor treatment. Just pour it in. Seafoam works to clean your fuel system, clean your oil system, and stabilizes fuel up to 2 years. Make the proven choice. Seafoam motor treatment. Available everywhere automotive products are sold.
Race fans, the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum is open 7 days a week, year-round, for you to come in and check out all of the wonderful race cars on display in the museum. And our online store at sprintcarstuff.com is open 24 hours a day for you to check out everything that we have in stock for sprint car fans. Whether it's for a birthday, anniversary, or Christmas, sprintcarstuff.com has it all. That's at the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum in Knoxville.